Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Well Self Podcast. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Coach.
And we are here with our dear friend. We call him Reverend Brother Pastor, Doctor, consultant, motivational speaker, even has Master Jedi on here. Our
Jedi
Master. Our dear brother, Wylie Hughes. Hello, Dr. Hughes. So glad that you're with us today.
I'm so glad to be here with you guys. This is always a joy and a pleasure to chop it up with.
Oh, we just love having you. We had some great conversations.
Yes, we
really, really great conversations. And I'm looking forward to another great one today.
Yeah.
Today we're talking about a conversation. We've been talking about doing this for a minute, haven't we, Wylie?
Yeah,
really,
we have actually.
Probably from our first season, right? Like we've been talking about this.
They ain't ready. They ain't ready.
So today's conversation is about deconstructing religion, and we figured it would be a great time to have Wylie in on this conversation as a pastor, Coach John as a retired pastor, to talk about the ideas. For me, the words deconstructing religion together is like a buzz. It's one of those buzz terms that's out there right now. But as we'll talk about in this conversation, this is not a new concept. But Wylie, why did you want to talk about the idea of deconstruction?
Because, for me, I was deconstructing before deconstructing was a thing. I didn't know that that's what I was doing. It was just a very difficult, solo, lonely, almost, I would even say, traumatic journey that I wished I had a community surrounding me, if for nothing else, just to keep me, in an embrace, a group of people who could allow me to do that and not pass judgment, because we're all sort of in this thing together. And I just didn't have anyone to go through it with me. And so now I'm kind of, want to reach out to other people out there who are no doubt going through their deconstruction. Most of them don't even realize that's what they're doing. So I think it's very important that people understand that you're not alone, and that, there are people going through the same thing you're going through. So that's the biggest reason for me.
That is awesome. And that's so kind of you and altruistic, what you've experienced, and you want others to experience less of the suffering and frustrations that you were experiencing as you were just deconstructing. Would you be willing to kind of give us a definition of what deconstructing is? What does that mean? What does the term mean?
Well, that's interesting you asked me that. I don't know who termed it deconstruction. So I don't know why they chose that, but it's a very appropriate term, because it is basically, it is that it's deconstructing. It's turning an inward eye to the nuts and bolts of what we believe, our faith, our worldview, the ideology that we have accepted about the world that was created for us. It's to interrogate that, to question it, and to analyze the things about that worldview, the things about our faith journey that were traumatic to us. Many of us, church hurt. That's a part of it. Where does this hurt come from? Why do we believe what we believe? And then deconstructing it, removing it. I think one of the interesting terms that another colleague in the deconstruction movement said is that it's almost like you're trying to remove culture and oppression and colonialism out of your faith, and what's left is what's true and what's real and what's good, what's Jesus.
Can we take that?
Yeah, can we take all of the Roman influence and all of the colonial influence out of Jesus, and let's get back to who Jesus actually was? Let's get rid of all of the doctrine that got nothing to do with the Bible. Let's get rid of all of those things. Let's just focus on that one aspect of our faith that is real, and that's Jesus Christ. If you consider yourself a Christian, you don't have to be Christian to deconstruct. You can deconstruct being a Muslim, any religion, any faith, and any political identity, anything really. I mean, anything. Society needs a deconstruction. Our education system needs a deconstruction. Our politics need a deconstruction. Like it's not just religion. It's all those all facets of human activity.
Agree. I agree. It reminds while you're speaking, it makes me think about how we had the movement of be like Mike, be like this, and be like that. And instead, now we're in a space of deconstructing. Now we're like, okay, I'm not trying to be someone else. I need to be me. And so that is a part of deconstruction. And you go back
Right.
to the Bible in the Old Testament when it talks about Jesus was coming, that he was coming, and he talked about this person going to be coming in the future. And people don't understand when Jesus came, that if you want to define it in any type of way, that was a deconstruction that he was doing when he came on the scene, when he looked at his mother and say, it's time that I be about my father's business. And he went in and started doing good. And the people, he was judged, he was criticized, he was talked about because he wasn't acting the way that others was acting. He wasn't paying attention and playing in the games that other people was playing. He was like, you have turned my father's house into a house of a den of thieves, So you look at these types of things. So people that say that deconstruction is not real or anything, you may not like the term, but it has happened before, and it's going to continue to happen.
I was just going to say that it has happened before. Every holy person, every leader of every religious movement was a deconstructionist. Martin Luther was mad at the Catholic Church, and he wrote all of his problems down, 95 of them. He went to the church in Gutenberg back in the 1500s, and he nailed it to the church wall and was like, this is where we screwed up. We got to fix this. That was deconstruction. He didn't like these. He said, this doesn't make sense. We're allowing people to pay their way to heaven. What is that? So that's deconstruction. And as with all systems and organizations, when they fear deconstruction because it takes away power, right? It's a power thing. It's a power struggle. So so there's always going to be pushback against deconstruction, which is why people keep it on the wraps, keep it on the low, right? You do these things in secret because if you're out with it, then you're gonna face some kind of backlash.
When we talk about, we're backing up to something we usually say at the beginning of each podcast is we talk about the wellness dimensions that we are hitting, and we jumped right into the conversation. But when we're thinking no, it's not your responsibility. It's the responsibility of the host to keep things going. So my bad. Yeah. But when we're thinking about our dimensions, we are thinking about spiritually, our spiritual wellness dimension, and we emotionally and socially as well, this all hits in there, because as you start to deconstruct, as you start with questioning, because that's where I think that's where it comes from, there's usually some type of catalyst, whether it be some type of, you mentioned already, church hurt, some type of trauma, some type of shift, familial shift, relational shift that accompanies the idea of, let me take my beliefs and turn them over, examine them. And I know that as we discussed this, you talked about how many people came to you with questions because of church hurt. I can say that as well in my own experience of deconstructing. A lot of it happened because of some type of hurt or some kind of disappointment. So it seems like it not only accompanies hurt, but can we question whether or not, do we feel that deconstruction is necessary to keep proceeding along our journey? If we're dealing with stress, we're dealing with trauma, we're dealing with hurt, is that the time to start to take things and look it over? Like, do we have to do that?
I would say yes. I think going back into personal wellness, what is therapy but deconstruction, right? A good therapist takes you on a journey within yourself. A good therapist interrogates all of these emotions. Why do you feel this way? Why are you angry? Why are you sad? Why are you depressed? Why are you happy? Why are you experiencing the world this way? Because that's how you heal. That's how therapy works. That's how wellness works. You have to sort of interrogate those elements in your being that are not contributing to your well-being, you know, and it takes some
Nice.
deconstructing to do that. So yeah, I think it's very necessary to engage in deconstruction. I think when you get into the realm of of faith, it gets a little bit trippy. I would argue that even in matters of faith, we should be deconstructing. However, I know that there are some people who don't really benefit from it because they believe what they believe, they're comfortable in what they believe, they're happy with what they believe, and they don't feel the need to deconstruct that. And to each his own. And I think that's important to say that deconstructing it's not something to proselytize. It's not something to evangelize, right? We're not going to go out there and say y'all need to deconstruct and go to hell. But we're saying
Yeah.
that, yeah, but there is this element of, if you find yourself in a crisis of faith, then that's deconstruction. You're deconstructing already because there's something that's not adding up. You're seeing something on one hand and you're feeling something on the other, and you owe it to yourself, to your whole self, your whole being, to interrogate that. Yeah.
What do y'all think about the idea as we're starting to question? What do you think about the idea of people feeling guilty or feeling as if they are backsliding because of the questioning? Because, again, you said you didn't have a community as you were going through this, and there was a lot of discomfort that you faced as
Yeah.
you started to question. And I know the same. Like there were times when I knew I was having a lot of questions and a lot of frustrations and a lot of doubts. And it felt like I was closing in on myself because
Yeah.
I didn't really want to make it public that I was having all of
Right.
these feelings.
Yes.
It was something that I
Right.
discussed within my family and I'm thankful that I had, my spouse, I had my core network where I can have
Yeah.
conversations, and not everybody has that. But
Yeah.
I didn't make it public toward former church members, parents, this and that because of the the sorry, I just thought of one moment where um my stance was made known, I think, to my mother, and
Oh boy.
she came to pray through. John knows.
You need to be delivered.
she
No, sister, tell the story.
so she,
You broke this trip.
but
Break the
this is
story.
exactly
No,
why. This is
share.
exactly why didn't happen to be home, and I think my mom, bless her, rested. May she rest in peace. She found out that we weren't really going to church,
Oh.
and showed up here. Thank God I wasn't home. Thank God she got Coach instead of me. Showed up with another sister in the church to pray through the house.
Yeah, man. Delivered. We're gonna pray it out of you.
So
Pray it out of
yeah,
you.
because of moments like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
it wasn't something that I wanted to really make public. And
Right.
there was even though I was confident in what I was doing, there was also the guilt. And
Mm,
how do you guys
mm.
as pastors respond to someone who may be feeling that way, feeling that guilt?
Well, I always lead with love. Because I do get a lot of people who come to me with guilty conscience. Um, and I always lead with love. I always say, look, whatever you're going through right now, it's part of the human experience. To doubt is to be thinking. I love when people come to me with doubt because that means you're thinking. You're not swallowing everything just as is. You're not regurgitating what you've been taught. You're actually thinking. You're engaged in this thing. So when a person comes to me with theological problems, or they come to me with these really deep questions, what's up with this, 2x2 in the ark? Is that real? Did it really happen? I love it because that means you're thinking. And so to say, I feel guilty, Pastor, because I don't believe that Noah's ark really happened, I always say, good that you don't believe it, because now we can have a conversation about is it real or is it metaphorical? We can have a different conversation. We can engage your intellect, but out of love, to understand that, you're asking because you love it. You're asking because you're faithful. You're asking because you want to be true to what you believe in, but you've got some questions, to clarify. You want some clarity. And so I always lead with that. I always lead with, this is a safe space, and God loves you. God is big enough for your questions. God is big enough for your doubts. God is big enough for your anger, your rage. God is big enough for it. So don't think that you're, oh my God, I'm offending God because I'm questioning things. No, I think God's gonna be all right.
Me too. Me too. And
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the guilt for me come from when you do something, you do it with your full heart. You do it from your whole heart. So when you go out there and play basketball, you give your all. You in your organization, you give it your all because you feel like it's serving a purpose, so it motivates you to give, and so you're
Yeah.
learning about this here, and you're putting everything you can into this here. So you may see a scripture or hear a statement that may not sit right with you, but because of the teachings that you have been up under, you kind of brush it off sometimes, but the guilt becomes to come in when you start questioning your loyalty to everything that's being said.
There it is.
And so you're like, is it wrong of me to think this way when this is what this said, or this is what my pastor said God really intended? But inside of me doesn't sit right. My parents, they love me, but they don't like me with long hair. So, should I go around them with, that's where the guilt comes in. You see, that's the guilt. The process of it is you, like brother said, you are thinking now. And thinking is good because you should be able to question things. Doubting Thomas was a good example in the Bible where Thomas he doubted the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Why? Because you're like, that don't make no sense to me. How you gonna tell me he got up out of that tomb?
And on top of that, I wasn't there. You want me to believe
there.
you just because you said it?
I don't know you.
I
don't even like you like that.
I know. Y'all could have been high. Who knows what y'all was experiencing back then? So no. Show me.
Right. And according to the scripture, what happened? He had a visitation. The visitation allowed him to be able to put his finger in the nail prints in his hand. You see what I'm saying? So all the ones that didn't question it, they didn't have to have that revelation. And that's great. Right. Yeah. But for you have that question, you should be able to ask it. And you should be able to talk it out with somebody that's going to love you through it instead of criticize you through it and make you feel less than, because that's the first answer to everything is backsliding. Man, every time, you step on a nail, you step on a stone, you done backslid. I'm so sick of us just using the quickest term without any evidence to go with it or any real meaning.
Right. And most people, when they talk about doubt and they criticize you for doubting, and then they bring up Thomas. Yeah, Thomas doubted, but they don't you forget Thomas wasn't a disciple. Even he doubted, but then when it was proven to him, he went out and started the church. He went out and planted churches. He spread the gospel. His church in India is still around today. Y'all didn't know that.
Yes.
The church of Thomas is still in India today. Now, that's what doubt does, right? if you can address doubt and put doubt at ease, you got a disciple now. Now you locked in because you wanted the proof and you got the proof. So it's almost like it's a good thing to doubt because that just means you want to be clear. You before you step out there, you want to know what you know, what you know. Okay.
Yes.
And if you and if a church or a system discourages that doubt, discourages those questions, then you got to be careful. You got to watch that. There's something nefarious. I'm just going to say it. There's something nefarious in that. The inability to take questions. That's not of God, if you ask me. That's not of God.
I agree. I feel really uncomfortable when faced with organizations that just expect blind obedience and silence. And we're that's not something we really talk about. That and are quick to call into question your level of belief because
Right.
because like you
Right.
said, that doesn't make sense
Doesn't
to
make
me.
sense.
And the
Yes.
gaslighting that goes on, and I think that we have to recognize that in some of these organizations, if you're thinking about nefarious stuff, in some of these organizations, specific bodies, whether it be in the Christian church or anything that you're pulling back and examining, that ain't everybody in there for the right reasons.
Exactly.
Okay. Not
Exactly.
everybody in there is for the right reasons. Not every movement is for you to be involved with. Not everything is going to serve you. And not only is it going to distract you and bring you off path and bring you away from whatever your journey is, it is also there's also the possibility of hurt that's caused, trauma that's caused. And I don't want to make light of it. I want to make sure that, our listeners, our audience, whoever is hearing this is understands that you may need to go and get some support as you are going through this, as you are deconstructing, as you are turning things over and questioning them. Get the support that you need as you are walking through this. Seek counseling. Stay on top of your health needs. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself. But as you're thinking, find someone that's going to walk with you through those thoughts. Preferably someone that's a licensed professional counselor, clinical social worker, someone with the credentials to be able to help you as you start to uncover some, unpleasant stuff.
Creating that space. Yeah, creating that space for you to question and to, for me, I needed the space to just say this is all trash. I needed someone to be in the room with me for me to say it out loud. I didn't have that. And so I wish that I had someone who I could just say, can I just say it's all trash? And they say, yeah. And then we go through it. And then I come back from that, but I didn't have it. I mean, I think the most important aspect of deconstruction is realizing and understanding that this is your journey and it's not anybody else's journey. It's your responsibility. Paul said, work out your own salvation with great fear and trembling. And I think that is the key. It's no one can take you on this journey but you. No one can start you on this journey but you. Just like your own health, that's your responsibility. Your mental health is your responsibility. Your physical health is your responsibility. And so you have to take that power, that control. If the church or if the religion that you're in, that you identify with, is impairing your mental or your physical health, then that's your responsibility. You have to be strong enough to say, you know what, this is not doing me any good. This is hurting me. This is traumatizing me. And be able to step back. And that's where therapy helps. That's where having someone to care and walk with you through that, because you can't do that. You shouldn't do that alone. But it's your it's our responsibility.
It truly is. I'm wondering. I feel like we've made a case for, okay, deconstruction is a thing. You can, if you're doing it, understand that it may be necessary for you based on where you are in your journey. What was it that was helpful for you as you were deconstructing, as you were starting to turn things over? What did you find helpful?
That's interesting. For me, I'll tell you what I found very helpful, because my deconstruction came because of an experience that I had that the Bible couldn't explain and that pastors couldn't explain. There was no context for it within my faith. There was no mechanism to talk about what I experienced. And so for me, I had to figure out what that experience was about. I had to do the exploration in it on my own. And that's what was helpful for me, was being able to say, all right, church can't help me, pastor can't help me. I'm gonna figure it out on my own and really get out there and really, almost like a bird leaving the nest. I'm gonna get out there and I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. And then I'm gonna find it and bring it back. So for me, it was a journey itself. It was uncharted territory. And I do not shy away from exploration. And so I explored, and what I found really, it was supportive for me. It was like asking a question and then getting a response. And again, um, I could have used some help along that journey, because not all information is good information, right? Not every path is good. Sometimes you go down a rabbit hole and woo-wee, you got to back up and I can't go down there. That's too much, right? You make a mistake, you fool around. I bit off more than I can chew in many situations, because I'm searching, and you got to be careful, because there are people out there who they love people who are searching, because that means you're empty and they want to fill it with something. So, for me, it was the research, it was the knowledge and that I gained from that journey. Just wished I had someone to help me filter through it a little bit better. That way I wouldn't have wasted time, doing weird things and creeping people out. That was for me. Yeah.
Creeping people out is funny.
I'm scared to ask.
No, I'm not on
ask right now. I'm gonna leave that alone.
Coach, what was helpful for you? What were you gonna say,
No,
Wylie?
but I finished that.
Finish.
No, why are you saying something? No.
Oh my gosh. I mean, okay. I got caught reading a book. It was a book called the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus. Aquarian Gospel of Jesus.
Who caught you reading the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus?
It was somebody from the church, because I was a part of a big Black Baptist church in Atlanta, and so we everywhere around there. So I was on the train, going somewhere, and I was just reading the book, and somebody from my church was on the train with me, and he said,
Sure.
"Brother Hughes," I said, "How you doing, Deacon?" I don't say his name, and he said, "What you reading there?" And I said, "Oh, it's the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus Christ." And he said, "The what?" And so I had to try to explain to him what, and yeah, you could tell from his face expression, he was like, okay, this boy's lost.
Yeah.
We're going to have to pray for him. We're going to have to deliver him.
Next thing you know, they were going to be coming over to your house to break your yaps.
Yes.
Pray for him, check on you,
It creeped him out. He was like, oh my God, what is he, all the cheering these days, all the cheering these days, he was really distraught.
Distraught.
And so, yeah, that was just one of the, he was distraught, because I was in college, and you're a smart brother, and why aren't you reading your Bible, and why aren't you and I didn't have the language, I didn't have the acumen to tell him the right way. So I just kept my mouth shut. And, when I got to church, they was trying to lay hands on me and all these kind of things. So,
Let me talk. He snitched.
Of course.
Of course he did. Of course he did. These tearing the day, so it was awkward. It was awkward, because I didn't have the mechanism to present it. I didn't have it yet. Now I could do it, drop of a dime, whatever, I'll tell you. But back then I didn't have it, because I was still learning. So it was awkward, and I didn't, communicate it the best way. And so it creeped him out even further, because even I didn't know what I was reading. Like, come on, you know what I mean? Like, I was still learning. And so it was very awkward, and folk were concerned about. Uh, and I respect that, and I appreciate that, but they were concerned for my soul.
Yeah,
And I was trying to tell them, don't worry
top
about
of
my
the prayer
soul.
list. The top of the prayer list.
Right. I'm talking about my soul is fine, because by then I realized,
Ancestry
the soul is immortal, blah blah blah. So I'm like, you ain't worry about my soul, I'm good. But it was this other stuff that they were concerned about. So
5
it
o'clock
was,
in the morning, they're praying over
yeah.
you. I
We gonna
see it
put you
right
on
now.
the prayer chain.
You on the accessory prayer
Lord have
The
at
mercy.
prayer
5 in the
chain.
morning. Yeah.
John,
Yeah, they had a prayer chain.
what was helpful for
Yeah.
you as you were trying to pull back and in your time of examining and deconstruction? What helps you?
Thank you for trying to pull me back, because I'm really down a
He's
rabbit
about to
hole
go.
right now.
You about to
I'm
go
ready.
in.
I'm
He's
ready.
ready.
Yeah, I know.
Can I? But for me, it was pretty much the same thing with Wylie. It's like, speaking and visiting things that was not organizations that was not a part of our circle. So now I'm fellowshipping with the Muslims. I'm fellowshipping with these people. I'm fellowshipping with these
Yeah.
people. Oh, something is
Yeah.
wrong with you. And oh my God, passing a big backsliding now. And
Yeah.
for me, and my answer for them at that time was, it's hard for me to keep demonizing things, and I know nothing of this situation. I know nothing about this congregation. I know nothing about their practices. I know nothing. All the thing I know is that some Bishop Tutu from blah, blah, blah back in the day said that this was demonized. And there is nothing else said about it. There's no real reading. There's no real evidence to tell me that helps me feel like they are demons, And so I began to visit places that were supposed to have been off that was on the no list.
As a Christian.
As a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
As a Christian. And so, but what I learned I'm like Brother Wylie, I'm not afraid to go in uncharted waters. Uncharted waters have been good to me. They have helped me grow. Uncharted waters. I have found treasure in uncharted waters.
Bro, that'll preach right there. That'll preach. You better write that down. You better write that down,
I have found
Coach.
treasure in the uncharted waters.
You better write it down, Coach.
Look, she already got the wrap it up box.
Write that down. We keep it moving.
Sister Griffin has already got the wrap it up box.
Wrap it up box?
That up.
Wrap that up.
But no, we have demonized things that we have not even had a moment of having a conversation with people. We have,
there's so many things that, and I'll just be real specific. There are things that carried our ancestors through slavery and segregation and Jim Crow and all of these things that allowed us to live as we're living today.
Yes.
Church people still to this day call it the devil. And, in my studies, I learned that my grandmother and my grandparents were root workers. I didn't even know what hoodoo was until I began to interrogate it. What's so scary about hoodoo? Then I realized hoodoo is African-American folk religion. This is what we carried with us when we were stolen from Africa, and we adapted to where we are in America. And the roots, the herbs, burning sage, all of these things were the things that we used to sustain us, because we couldn't go to the doctor. We couldn't afford it. So we talked to our ancestors. We talked to the spirits, and we said, my son or my daughter or somebody is sick. How can we help them? And the spirits answered and said, pick this flower, this root, this petal, this stem, grind it up and put it in this tea and make them drink it. And they'll be good. And that's what they did. And folk call it the devil.
Right.
And it's like, is it the devil? But they're healed now, right?
Right.
The founder of the Church of God in Christ was a big time hoodoo worker. Y'all didn't know that, did you? The
No, I didn't know
founder
that
of the
one.
Church of God in Christ was a hoodoo conjurer. And I've seen the pictures of him with all his hoodoo stuff. And I said, what in the world? No wonder they're speaking in tongues, because look at what they're doing. So these, because, but it's
Speaking
real,
that tongue.
they're speaking in tongues, and that, because they are tapping into the spirit of their ancestors. Hello. And, it's not the devil. It's actually the spirit of their ancestors.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
find it real interesting the number of similarities between those practices within the faith and the practices that they tell us to avoid, like those known. Like these things are so
yes,
similar.
yes,
I think,
interesting.
yeah, I find it really interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
I read a passage where Jesus spit on the ground onto the clay
All
and
right.
made mud, right?
You
He
better.
made mud and he put it
All
on
right.
this guy's eye and he told him,
All right.
go over there and wash in that pool over there, in that water over there. And the guy come back saying, I don't know what type of person there, but I know that once I was blind, but now I can see. So we could sit here and we could talk about what's negative and what's not what is positive. But when I see the signs and wonders of these things,
Yeah, man.
that we have called, that we have demonized,
We've
it's part of
demonized.
segregation. It's
It's
segregating
colonialism,
ourselves.
man. It's colonialism. Those colonials came into Africa and said all this stuff is the devil. All of it is the devil. And yet,
Same
when
time, while
yeah,
taking
at the
Want it
same,
all.
from those
yes,
Taking.
practices.
yes, while
Taking.
taking from those practices. I remember I went to a church and they were doing a house blessing.
Mm.
And they were at this house blessing, and the pastor went in there. This is a white guy, and the pastor went in there, and he took some herbs, dipped it in some water, and he washed it over the door jamb.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Wait a minute, do you know what you're doing?" He said, "Yeah, we're blessing the house." I said, "Where did you get that from?" "Oh, my grandparents, they used to do this back in the day when we lived in Louisiana." I said, Louisiana, huh? Louisiana, huh? Right. So it's not so demonized when you doing it, but but when we do it, it's the devil, right? Come on now. So these are some of the deconstruction that I went through, realizing that a lot of these practices that we call the devil is really us being who we are.
And can we talk about the underlying root to all of that? All of that is the fear that is present when we're interacting with things that are unfamiliar to us. Okay. And the fear that comes up, and when we're talking about nefarious, entities, some of that fear has been used. We've been manipulated. People who want to do the right thing. Gosh, I want everyone out there who wants to do the right thing. They're just following along because they're told this is
Right.
this is the right thing to do. This is the way to act. This is how it's always been done, blah, blah, blah.
You're right.
But if you haven't done that, turning it over because you're so afraid,
Right.
you actually may not know what you're doing. You're just
That's
doing
right.
something.
You're just doing it. You're just doing it. I remember asking a young lady, she saw a snake in the middle of the road. It got run over. And when she saw it, she was like, oh my God. And she did the sign of the cross. I said, what are you doing? She said, oh, it was a snake in the road. I said, yeah, it got run over. That's sad. And she says, oh, it's not. It's a snake. It's the devil. I said, what you mean? I said, what do you mean? She said, it's the devil. It's a snake. It's a serpent. I said, ma'am, ma'am, a snake is a snake. A snake is a
Snake is
snake.
Thank you.
It's a snake.
I love
It's
that.
a snake. I said, do you realize that for 6,000 years, the snake was a sign of resurrection?
Mm.
Do you realize that the medical symbol that we see in hospitals with the staff, with the snake that wrap around it? Okay. I said, come on. Is it the devil really? He said, well, that's what I was taught. I said, well, that's the problem. That's the problem. You didn't question that? You didn't interrogate that? It's a snake. It's dead. You scared of a dead snake? Okay, I can see you scared of a live snake. They might bite you. But the snake is dead. And you're still afraid of it? Where does this fear come from?
So think about how oppressive that is.
It's very oppressive. It's very oppressive. And I literally, I unloaded on her, and I shouldn't have, but I did. I said, you are echoing the fear of your oppressors because they don't want you to take control of your own spiritual power. Because if you can go out your back door and walk into your backyard and pick your own plants and herbs, if you can go out there and get your own snake and take it into your house and your kitchen and whip up something that will cure your diabetes or that will get the gout out your system, now the pharmacy don't have power over you. If you can open the book and memorize some scripture and bless somebody from that scripture, you don't need your pastor anymore. If you can bless your own house, burn your sage, burn your Palo Santo, and dispel all the demons and negative energy in your house, you don't need someone to do it for you. So now you are threatening the power structure that is organized religion. That's why you're afraid of a dead snake. It's not because a snake has done anything to you. It's because your pastor fears you taking your control, your own spiritual power. And that's what deconstruction does. And that's why so many churches I'm seeing on social media are actively, vehemently speaking against such negative things about deconstruction. They are so scared. And if anybody say they are deconstructing, that's the devil, because it is a sign that their power over the masses is being usurped. And they don't like it.
You are absolutely right. You're absolutely right. When we look in, let's take a quick journey through the Bible. We had the Old Testament, where the priest was the only one that can go behind the veil, and that priest, they would tie a bell around that priest's neck, around that priest, and he go behind the veil, and he go in there, and if he wasn't clean, he get struck down. And so let's fast forward. Let's fast forward. Like I say, we talked about Jesus coming, which took away that and allowed you to be able to go to God for yourself. And so in the process, we have found another way to bound people to some type of leadership authority. Yes. You're going to need a spiritual guy. But you know the beautiful thing about it? In the New Testament, and when we're talking about evangelists, prophets, teachers, all these different people that's in the body of Christ that edifies the saints. So it's not one person no more. You got all these people now.
Amen. Priesthood of all believers.
You see what I'm saying? So when you knock down that hierarchy mindset, then you are causing a problem. That's you going against the grain, because I need my title, I need my status, I need this. Have it. But the thing with what people fail to realize is what that person needs. It's not serving what you need. And when you start deconstructing, you start working on the things that you need. You need peace in your life. You need a little bit more love in your life. You know, I like to be a little bit more calmer. I don't want to look at my neighbor because he doesn't look at me. His color complexion is not the same as mine as the devil. I don't want to look at these people the way I look at them. I don't want to be this type of person. And you are doing the work. You know, there's a level that every spot can take you. And if your community is not growing, you're going to outgrow that community.
That's right.
And I hate to say that. You're going to outgrow that community. If they keep giving you government cheese and bread every week, you're going to get tired of eating government cheese and bread. You're going to want something else.
It's true. That's a great analogy, though. That's a great analogy. That is a perfect analogy, because that's exactly what Faith Journey is today. It's government cheese. We are getting government cheese, grilled government cheese sandwiches.
Can't even grill it.
And can't even grill it because it won't melt. And yet there's this whole smorgasbord of food that's out there that we're missing out on. And they're keeping us from it because they don't want us to taste something else that just might take away the power that they have over us. You know what I mean? And that's, gosh, it sounds macabre. It sounds very, heinous. And I'm not trying to present it as something that's, you know, evil. It's not that simple.
No.
It's not that simple. It's just that the system is so big and it's so old and it's been turning for so long that we just don't see it that way. We don't see, as a pastor, it took me deconstructing to realize that I was a big part of that machine of oppression and control and conformity. I was a big part of it because I said, like you said, this is what I was taught. This is what I learned. This is what I know. And so I'm just telling you, look, I'm just telling you what the Bible told me, right? We used to say that. The Bible says this, and that's what it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just
not
bold
me,
with it
the
because
Bible.
Yeah, the Bible said that, right? And then when I deconstructed, I said, oh my gosh, I was contributing to other people's trauma, just like the trauma came to me. And so I had to pull back. I said, okay, well, I can't do this anymore because I realized, right? And then, after that deconstruction, then there comes the reconstruction where you reintegrate back in there and you try to, whatever. So,
help the system.
Help people. I want to help people now. I'm still a pastor. I still love Jesus. I may have a problem with the church.
I have a big
give
problem.
me Jesus, but then lead a church. Yeah, y'all can have a church.
That.
One of the things that helped me was technology, and we talked about this a little bit in our pre-conversation. Is you're able to find your tribe.
Yes.
You mentioned social media and how a lot of these. Well, there's a lot of posts right now about deconstruction, anti-deconstruction, just as there are other buzz terms, posts against other buzz terms. But what social media and technology has allowed for me in that space of deconstruction, when I'm having those questions, other creators, other posters are able to connect and say, is this what, is this what you're feeling? Is this how you're experiencing it? Have you had these thoughts? Whereas, 30 years ago with these questions, that wasn't as available to us. You definitely
there was no forum for it.
Right. And so I'm really glad to have certain spaces, social media accounts. I know that we follow a few similar accounts that have a lot of similar questions and that put the information out there to say, this is okay to have these types of thoughts.
Right. And it's just so weird when I, meet people at that space, in that deconstruction space, and then look at me and they say, and you're still a pastor? I'm like, yeah, I'm still a pastor. I'm still
having great conversations with one brother back in the days. Oh, I love those conversations you and him was having. I really enjoyed it. I'm very proud of you, for being able to speak in a calm way to show love that this is what's needed. This is the thing that has to happen.
Yeah. And technology has brought us all closer together. It's made the world a lot smaller. And so, like you said, you can find your tribe. You can, there's going to come a time where deconstruction is going to be academically. It's going to be an academic venture because there's too many people that are going through this now, and they're finding these communities and they're finding spaces where they can actually deconstruct with people who are on academic levels. Like there's books being written and people who have been studying this for a long time. They are writing manuals. They're writing manuals. So there's going to come a time where this is going to be out. And, that's because of technology, right? Because back in the day, like you said, 30 years ago, there was no platform for such a conversation. There was no forum for such a conversation. You had to be in secret. You had to hide. And I hate that. I hated doing that because I felt that I was betraying something somehow. I felt that I was doing. It fed into that whole guilt thing. That whole, hey, this must be wrong because I can't share it with anybody. It's a secret. And so I just had to work through it. But now you don't have to do that anymore. And I'm very grateful for technology in making those connections a lot more easy.
One more thought as we start to think about wrapping up. You mentioned shadow work in
Yeah.
in relation to a deconstruction experience. Can you tell us a little bit? I didn't really understand shadow work until recently, to be honest with you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So shadow work is basically exploring the the darker part of your being. And when I say dark, I don't mean evil, but the dark part, the parts that we don't want people to see, the parts of our heart, the parts of our spirit that we hide from people, the things that we put a mask over. And even when we're talking about going to church and presenting ourselves before the Lord and wearing our Sunday best, what are we covering up? That's the shadow. Um, Doing shadow work helped me with deconstruction because it helped me to root out all of that guilt and shame that I was carrying because of church, church teachings, right? And so, you have to confront those dark parts of us and not to get rid of them because, the way Christianity is taught today, it's all about eliminating evil. And if it's evil inside of you, you got to deliver it. And if your right hand offend you, cut it off. And if your right eye offend you, pluck it out, right? uh, and I think that is antiquated because we all have dark urges. We all have darkness within us. But what shadow work does, it helps you to look at the darkness, but also to integrate that darkness in with your lightness, because one cannot exist without the other. It's a balance. Okay. And so what shadow work did for me was help me to deconstruct much more aggressively than I was before, because my guilt was holding me back. It was holding me back from really exploring those depths. And once you start that shadow work, man, and then now you're getting in touch with the darker version of you, the shadow you, and it's scary sometimes because you don't realize just how shadow you are. You don't realize what you have inside of you because you're repressing it all the time. And that's what religion does. Religion represses all these things when we should be interrogating. We should be shining a light on them and saying, okay, why do I have these urges? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about what I want to do. Like, I was watching a TikTok and a guy was saying, am I, this whole, am I the asshole? Right? You ever seen these videos where people make these videos where they say, I bought my daughter a car and then, she went out with some boy and then she wrecked it. Am I the asshole for not wanting to buy her another one? Like, no, you're not. If it's saying the thing out loud. Am I wrong for feeling this way? Am I wrong for wanting to breathe fire on my children for smack? Am I wrong for it? That's shadow work. That's what shadow work is. Instead of just saying, I feel like I want to knock somebody out, but I'm not because I'm a Christian. No, you're saying, I really want to knock this person out. Am I wrong for that? And having somebody to say, no, you're not wrong for wanting to knock this person out. Doesn't mean you should do it,
You
but
want
it
to follow
just
through,
means
right?
that, yeah, it just means you're
You work
talking
through it.
through it. You're talking
Yes.
through it. You're entertaining. Okay, if you knock them out, what, then what? Then you say, okay, I really was not going to make the problem any better. Okay, so that's shadow work in a very basic, very basic.
And I encourage it. Encourage people to consider doing it, walking through it. There is definitely a release that comes from exploring those uncomfortable, darker parts of you. And there's a release that comes from all of this, walking through the
Yeah.
process of
Yes.
deconstructing and taking things apart and turning it around. Again, want to supplement that with get support. as you're
It's
because
important.
stuff's
It's
going to
important.
come up. There's going to be
Yes, it
stuff that
will.
comes up. There's going to be uncomfortable feelings, memories, things that you didn't realize that you had hidden,
Mm,
and as you are facing that part of yourself, those parts of yourself, um
mm-hmm.
get support, get some help.
Yeah.
If you have a
Yeah.
buddy, and if you need it and it's helpful,
Mm-hmm.
have a counselor, have someone
Yeah.
who you can
Yeah.
say, this is what I'm going through, because it's not an easy thing to
No, it's
pull,
not.
to start to look at the darker parts of you, to start to look
Mm-hmm.
at, your faith upbringing, your political upbringing, to start to look at the environment in which you were raised. Those conversations that you have with yourself, get the support that you need, take some time to journal, make sure you're properly
Yes.
hydrated, do what you need to
Yes.
do during this time to continue to take care of your body, refresh, because it's not an easy process.
Yeah. I'll tell you a story. I remember I'm still having back problems, but it was a different part of the back. So I went to a chiropractor, and no, I went to a massage therapist. Sorry, I went to a massage therapist, and I told him, yeah, I'm having some tension in between my shoulder blades. And she said, so does it hurt when you breathe? I said, yeah, when I take a big deep breath, it hurts. And so she said, okay. So I'm on her table. She's working the area. And then she starts talking to me. And she starts telling me all about myself. She said, you're having some relationship issues. I said, yeah, okay. You're coming up against some authority, aren't you? I'm like, how you know that? She said, because we store our darker impulses in our bodies. We store it in our bodies. We store anger in our bodies. We store anxiety in our bodies. And sometimes when you are confronting, because this is what I was doing the shadow work, I was deconstructing, all of the stuff was coming up and it was manifesting in my body. And I thought I was hurt. I thought I was like broken because it was painful. And she was like, no, brother, just relax, breathe and breathe out. She was getting them knots. And she talked me through it, it just went away. Literally, it went away because I was able to address it. I was able to face it. And then she was helping get it out of my system, out of my body. And she said, it's all connected. It's all connected. So you have
All
to understand that
connected.
you are a complete person. You are a mind, you are a body, you are a spirit. And when you're deconstructing, that's a mental thing, but it's also a physical thing. And it's also a spiritual thing. So get your mental health, get your spiritual health, and get your physical health. All of that comes together. It's all a part of deconstructing. All of it. We can talk about deconstructing diet another time because but that's a
Come
rabbit
see
hole.
me. Come
That is
see
a
me.
rabbit hole. No, it
Yes.
is.
Yes,
It's
it
a rabbit hole
is.
because
Mhm.
when you go to other cultures, like for instance, when you go to Asian cultures, you're at a restaurant, you're at somebody's house, they feed you something. If you clean your plate, that's disrespectful. That means that they are not hospitable. They're gonna keep putting food on your plate because for them that's hospitality. But see, where I was growing up, where John and I grew up, you clean that doggone plate. Why? Why do we have to clean our plate? Why do we have to eat chicken and destroy the gristle, the gristle and the tendons and all that? Because Mama told us we may not eat again. We may not eat again. So eat everything that you can now, right? So we have to deconstruct from that. I have to deconstruct. I have to deconstruct from this idea that I won't have a meal like this again. So that my relationship with my diet can change to now I eat for sustenance or I eat for pleasure as opposed to eating for survival. Because guess what?
Yes.
When you eat for survival, your body's in survival mode. So it stores
Yes.
all that stuff as fat. Because it's like, hey, we're not gonna eat like this again, baby. So let's put it all around your gut, all in your butt, your hips. Let's store it. Because you may not eat again. You see what I'm saying? And so that
Yes.
has to be deconstructed. That has to be
Yes.
deconstructed. So I know we're trying to wrap it up. That just opened up a whole.
I know, right? Pastors. Coach, you got
I
something?
know, right?
Coach, you got something to say? What do you think as we were wrapping up? What do you got to
No,
say?
Brother Wylie has opened up the food deconstruction, and we're gonna talk about that again one day because I like that one. You know,
Yeah,
that's
we gotta go. Yeah,
topic.
we gotta touch
Yeah,
on
we
that.
got
We
to
gotta
touch
touch
on
on that.
that
That's my
for sure.
topic.
It's very
Because
important.
but I want people to understand your shadow work is important.
Yeah.
You remember you're a whole being. So the
Mhm.
work that you're doing, you have to address all of it. See, and what happens is we have suppressed that dark side of us to the point
Mhm.
where it seems like it's a bad person, but it's
Mhm.
also good for you. It's good for you.
Well,
It works
it's a
with you.
part of you.
It's a
You know.
part of you, right?
Mhm.
And so you have to be able to work with it. And when you suppress it, you're not allowing it to mature. So
Right.
the growth is not happening with it. But when you allow yourself to work with it, you begin to allow it to grow and it begin to mature. So now as it grows, so now it's not coming out like, roar. As it
Right.
grows, it comes out a little bit more calmer because you are calm.
That's right.
So it's going to
That's
pick
right.
up, it's going to transfer to that your energy that you have. So, instead of sitting in the bottom talking about, let me out, they shouldn't be talking to you like that. Let me out, let me out, let me get a piece, So now it
That.
comes out, you're not going to talk to me like that. You're not going to treat me
That's
that
it.
way.
Yes.
I love you, but
Yes.
you and I are not going to we're not going to converse like this here. So,
Mm.
so that's important.
Mm.
It's important in your shadow work. So I could talk about this forever. And before I get to
Brother.
wrap it up, box, people, know that you're not alone. We're here
Yes.
for you. Brother Wylie, myself, and Dr. Griffin, we're here for you. We don't want you to feel like you're alone because a lot of people have questions. A lot of people don't feel like they have a support team and a support system, and we're here for you. And like they say, technology is here. We can meet you
Yeah.
online. We can talk with you, and different types of things because we are stronger together, and I love you.
Thank you so much. I think my final words for this is what I've learned on my journey is I've gained confidence in my own inner voice. And as I've pulled away from some of the things, the questions that I had. So as I asked those questions and started to explore the answers and research that you said, Wylie, and connection, and John, as you talked about going to other places, as we've done all of those things, what has grown in me is my inner voice and being able to hear it more clearly, being able to connect to myself and my authentic beliefs. And that is so powerful. And as Wylie said at the beginning of all of this, wanting to save others from some of the frustration that he experienced. I feel very strongly the same way. This is a big reason why we do this work, why we are putting out episodes and social media posts and meeting with clients is some of that, to release some of the frustration that we felt and to allow others to release similar feelings, and to walk with people in situations where we did not necessarily have that type of support. And I really encourage people to keep going, to keep questioning,
Yeah.
use those critical thinking skills,
Yeah.
and relish in the deeper understanding that you gain of yourself, that self-discovery that comes along with turning things over, questioning,
Mm-hmm.
asking. And you can do it and maintain your faith, your beliefs. um Things might adjust, your social circle might adjust, your how you practice might adjust,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
don't feel that you're losing your sense. You are still who you are. You are still who you are, just evolving, changing, shifting.
May I have a closing statement?
Please go ahead.
And it just came to me. It was spark of inspiration.
Love it.
Roll, roll, row your boat. It's your boat. Is your boat gently down the stream, which means, no, seriously, gently. Be gentle with yourself.
Yes, amen.
Take time.
Absolutely.
Do not rush this thing because it's going to take time. Merrily, which means do your deconstruction journey with joy. Because if you don't do it with joy, you're not going to get joy back. You're going to get whatever you put into it. So journey with joy, right? It's your boat. It's you rowing it. Nobody else can row it for you. Do it gently, but do it merrily.
You ain't got nothing for life is but a dream.
Well, that's a whole nother podcast right there.
Wait, you gonna stop
that's
there?
a whole nother episode. I gotta stop there.
Okay.
I gotta stop there. Because if we start talking about life as a dream,
that's
a whole nother.
I got a sermon for it. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Apparently.
You are not alone, people. Remember, you're not alone.
Hey, listen, we always a good time with you, Reverend Brother Dr. Wylie Hughes.
Yes, indeed.
Jedi Master.
Likewise.
So thankful for you, and of course, immensely grateful for you, Coach. Just absolutely appreciate you in every
yes,
which
Lord.
way.
Yes,
in
Lord.
Every which way.
Every which way.
Thank you all. We shout out to our audience, our community. Yes. Thank you all for joining us for another episode. We wish you peace and happiness and encourage you to be well, everyone. Goodbye.
Be well. Be well. And may the force be with you.
Row your boat! Row your boat!
The information and opinions that are expressed on this podcast are for education, information, and entertainment purposes only. The information is not intended as medical, psychiatric, or psychological advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please consult with a personal physician or other healthcare professional for your own specific mental and/or physical healthcare concerns. No physician, patient, or counselor-client relationship is created by listening to or watching this program. Do not avoid or delay seeking medical advice or attention from your healthcare provider because of something you learned about on this program.